Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you the head of the domestic terror group, the Squad, and their affiliates, Antifa and Black Lives Matter, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Of course, Democrat from New York. We've seen her on here plenty of times. Let's see what derogatory things she has to say about Israel today. Now, keep in mind, this was done on May 19th, which was merely 3 days ago. Let's take a look, shall we? You know, usually I don't do the picture in thing. I just let the video play, then I give my comments. I couldn't on this one, so this is what we're going to do. Another one of her crazy ass phone videos. Let's watch.
We have a responsibility to protect each other, to protect our democracy, to protect our rights.
Now, in those rights, our God-given rights, is the Second Amendment. She's fully in favor of taking it away. She's fully in favor of taking away your First Amendment right. However, she wants to keep a right that's not guaranteed in the Constitution, abortion, protected. These leftists, man, these domestic terrorists, look at her. She looks like she's ready to throw on a suicide vest and go bomb something.
And to really recognize difficult truths for what they are.
Listening to her is so painful. I would like to apologize on me and behalf of my executive producer, Zoe, that we're forcing you to listen to this. Zoe had to listen to it. Please, nobody report me to animal abuse. Please, thank you.
So, anyways, I just wanted to kind of put that out there. I also think it's really important for us to have eyes on what happened with Shireen Abu Akleh in Palestine. You know, she was killed by Israeli forces.
Whoa, let's stop right there. So, from the reports I've read, they don't know if she was killed by Israeli forces or Palestinian forces. You're in the middle of a combat zone. Stuff happens. I get it that this Ron DeSantis stalking whore doesn't get it. You know, I shouldn't call her a whore. Because as far as I know, she's only had the one boyfriend. As far as this Ron DeSantis stalking young woman knows, anybody could have killed her. It happens in war. You're in the middle of a war zone. You're in the middle of combat. There's a chance you're not going home, a very high chance. How many American reporters before have been killed in these very same situations? You know, when you go over there, you're taking a risk. You're taking a risk with your life. But I do have much respect because that's a big risk to take. And if you're willing to go over there to do your job and get the story, more kudos to you. I hate that this never been anywhere, never done anything young woman doesn't get it. That's the reality of war. It's dirty and it's nasty.
A venerated journalist, a U.S. citizen. And, you know.
Now, keep in mind, U.S. citizens were just killed over in Ukraine. Crickets from this domestic terrorist.
We can't allow. We can't allow this stuff to be happening with our resources.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that was excruciating. But understand she's trying to get her thoughts together. Understand people with IQs below probably 30 have a hard time gathering their thoughts. Let's give her time. And chances are she's reading from a cue card. Watch her eyes, how she looks off. She's actually looking at a cue card. Let's go.
You know, like a lot of times people say, oh, you know, a lot of times people say like, oh, like you're treating this differently and you're picking, you know, you're picking them out and treating them differently.
This is the same woman who cried when Israel got funding for the Iron Dome, which is a completely defensive weapon that has no offensive capabilities. Now, you guys watch the missiles. I covered them. You guys watch the missiles coming into Israel. Israel would have been leveled if they didn't have the Iron Dome, and she cried because Israel could defend itself from her domestic or her terroristic friends And really, when you think about it, 42 people that we know of that have been caught on the terror watch list so far, due to the open borders that she's partly responsible for. She's in a great deal responsible for. They want the destruction of your country. So I say, civil war on our own soil is a horrible thing, but it might be the only thing to save America.
Our tax dollars are a part of this. Our resources are a part of this. We can't even get health care in the United States.
I have health care. Obamacare kind of screwed that up for everybody, didn't it?
And we're funding this. There has to be some sort of line that we draw. It has to stop.
It stops with people like this representing us. We send her back to working in a bar in New Jersey.
At some point. And it's just, if you're like me.
I'm not, thank God.
And you come up in a family or a background where these issues weren't really predominant.
The hell is she talking about? I remember being 2 years old. Me and my grandpa would sit down for hours. And we talk about the Middle East crisis for hours. I remember saying goo goo gaga, goo goo gaga. And my grandfather understood where I stood on the Middle East peace talks.
It doesn't have to be that complicated. And a lot of times,
honestly, nothing can be complicated for her because she can't understand it.
Sometimes people try to make it seem like you don't understand what's going on.
You don't. You do understand that's the Jewish Holy Land. It should have never been taken from them. Now it's given back to them. But
Or they try to make it seem as though, believing that Palestinians are human beings that deserve human rights is like somehow inherently anti-Semitic. It's not.
I'm not going to tell you what is and what isn't anti-Semitic. AOC, the Squad, BLM, Antifa. But I'll tell you what's how do I put this? A humanistic trait. If you present a threat to me, your human right is to get shot in the fucking face, because I'm going to preserve my life. So when you look at it from the Israelis' point of view, the Palestinians are always attacking them. So this came out, I think the 19th was on Friday. This weekend, an Palestinian general was assassinated in front of his house. Not going to say it was a Mossad, but it definitely looked like a Mossad hit to me. And the reason I won't say it was a Mossad, because all my buddies, right, who still, you guys know from my injuries and stuff, I can't do anything. The Lions went quiet. And so I know, like, if I call one of my buddies and they don't answer, if I text one and they don't respond, I know something's up. All I'm going to say is the couple of people I know who would usually, unless something's going on, hit me back, didn't. So I'll just sit back and wait to get back in the country, I guess. You never know where they are and what they're doing. This woman is insane. I apologize for making you guys watch this, but we got to finish it out. You guys can do this. I have faith in you.
And it's insulting, I believe, to the actual profound amount of anti-Semitism that our Jewish brothers and sisters are confronting right now, because it's not a joke. We're seeing hate crimes against Jewish people in New York City. We're seeing.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're seeing hate crimes being perpetrated by liberals, Antifa, Black people who've had their mind warped by BLM, telling them the Jewish people are trying to get rid of them. That's what you're seeing. And it's all perpetrated by domestic terrorists like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I refuse to call her representative. I'm going to call her what she is. She is a domestic terrorist sowing hate and distrust and division in the United States. She is an evil woman with an evil purpose. She is Lilith from the Bible. She is, look at her. She's a horrible person. I don't care how good she tries to come off. Everything she does and says speaks evil. If there's one Christian out there that could tell me I'm wrong, or one Muslim, I'll even get to the Muslims, or one Jewish person that could tell me I'm wrong, tell me.
You know, explode in the last couple years. And we can't be confusing terms like this. We need to be really careful. And
you mean careful, like not presenting pages of legislation to defund Israel, to make Israel a victim of Palestine, to take away the Iron Dome, to let Palestine and the surrounding Muslim nations destroy Israel? You mean by letting Iran get nukes so they can wipe out Israel like they said they were going to do as soon as they get one? Is that what you mean, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you piece of domestic shit? Domestic terrorist piece of shit at that. I'm sorry, guys, I just get a little worked up because it's so obvious she's lying to the American people. And the worst part isn't her. You can scream all night into the wind. If nobody's listening, nobody cares. People actually believe her and vote for her. It's ridiculous.
It's just, you know, it just can't be the case that anything can happen. You know, that
it's called life. Anything can happen.
US.
But I wouldn't expect somebody who's been pampered for years, grew up in a protected, gated neighborhood in a giant ass mansion. I've shown you pictures to understand that.
Resources, help. I mean, like we saw an entire media building get bombed last year.
Now, keep in mind, the Palestinians were using that media building for military operations. There wasn't even anything coming out of that building but military objectives, military attacks. That is exactly why Israel bombed it. I support them. They should have bombed it. You know what? With her running her mouth, they should look back over and bomb it again.
That can't be happening in with our consent, with us looking away anymore. And that doesn't mean that you don't believe in Israeli people being safe, but
really? You mean like crying when they get funding for the Iron Dome, which is saving tens of thousands of Israeli lives? Lying, domestic terrorist piece of shit. Anti-Semitic, Jew-hating, just piece of shit. I wonder if she would ever go into Bill Maher's show. I'm just saying. He's kind of a Jew, but he's not really a Jew. He's a fake Jew. Come to think of it, I can't name one person on the left in the media who's a real Jew anymore. Howard Stern, he's not a real Jew. I thought Jay Behar was Jewish, but it turns out she's Italian. Who knew? Whoopi Goldberg, I ain't got to say nothing. Let's go, people.
I mean, we can't believe in Palestinians being safe too. This is
the reason you can't believe in Palestinians being safe is the same reason that if somebody breaks into my house in the middle of the night, you can't believe in them being safe because they're not going to be. It's going to be lights out.
Out of control. And, you know, I just want to thank so many folks because this is such a difficult issue. And it's a difficult issue in so many different ways. It's traumatic to some folks. There's so many people that come to this with trauma.
All right, I'm not gonna do it. I almost threw my hat across the room. I'm not gonna do it though. Come to this with trauma? You mean like getting a drink order wrong? You've never been anywhere, never done anything, don't understand anything as domestic terrorist. This is what's causing you trauma. Okay.
And then of course there's just a lot that's just kind of swept under the rug. It's like always been this political kind of no-go zone for all parties for so long. You're not allowed to talk about it.
I'm trying to stick it through to the end, ladies and gentlemen. I really am.
And to the point that then people don't know about it. And it's just, there has to be a line here. And I think it's just really important, because when people say, you know, why is this any of your business? It's our business because our
No, you know what's your business? Making New York better, making your district better, not turning down Amazon wanting to open a factory there, and then you shutting it down, losing jobs. That's your business.
resources are going to it. Just like last year when it was going on with Colombia, it was.
You ever notice whenever she mentions something that has a distinct accent, like remember when she went to the South and she developed a Black accent? Watch how she says Colombia, Colombia. God, this woman.
U.S. resources that were helping fund some of that paramilitary that was cracking down on labor, on the labor uprising. And what did I do? I introduced legislation to cut that out, so that U.S. resources weren't going towards suppressing labor movements and violence against people in Colombia.
Ladies and gentlemen, as I often ask you to do, fact check me on this, but I do not believe, and I could be wrong. I mean, I could be, you know, she's never introduced a successful piece of legislation yet, to this day. So for her to say she introduced it doesn't mean it passed. Maybe she should take a class on government before she runs again. You can get one at the community college. But you drive a Tesla, so I would say go to a 4-year university. And while you're at that 4-year university, learn how to make a good martini.
You know, this is a principle. This is not something that we should be able to do, even when it's politically difficult. I mean, it really should be so basic, and it's really kind of boggled my mind. It's really, frankly, shocked me.
What? Something boggled her mind? I cannot imagine that happening. I am shocked.
How much some people's rights, basic human rights, are like they're just like politically too controversial to believe.
So what she's actually saying is that Palestinians have a right to destroy Israel. Israelis don't have a right to defend themselves, and they deserve no backing from the United States. So by her own logic and reasoning, Palestinians have human rights, Israelis don't.
I don't believe in kids in cages here, and I don't believe them there. I don't believe them anywhere.
See, she just went Dr. Seuss, but that's funny. There are more kids in cages under Joe Biden than there were under Trump, Obama, or Bush, or Clinton, or Bush Sr., or Reagan. But yet I don't see her at the border. She wants it open so she can bring in more of her terrorist friends to overthrow the country. We want to throw out rhetoric and we want to just straight up just take the gloves off. I say, you know what, here on Dan Dawson Show, it's time to do that. Let's just take the gloves off and tell the truth. She wants terrorists in the United States because they're her buddies, they're her pals. She's their leader. Let's just be honest about it, shall we, people?
I don't believe in U.S. funding, supporting state violence here, in Colombia, or anywhere else.
That's funny. You believed in it when we were using American money to paint BLM on our streets. You know, it's another part of your domestic terror network. You believed in it when our resources, our tax dollars, were being used to make morals of George Floyd, all these other drug dealers who were killed in the commission of crimes. Let's just be real.
That's not where our resources should be going to, especially when we don't even have the basic things that we need here, especially when people can't afford a house.
Let's talk about that. Oh my God, I'm so glad you said that. Let me tell you why. My most successful business, the one that pretty much runs itself, right? And makes me lots of money. It's in real estate. And here's what I can tell you from when Trump was president. I was making so much money, it was insane. It was, I don't want to say, it was, she's pornographic, how much money I was making. Now under Biden, because interest rates have jumped through the roof, land is more expensive than ever. And there's so much placed on people that they can barely afford their rent, no less rent and save for a mortgage. That's under you, you socialist, domestic terrorist wannabe. Oh, this woman.
People can't afford health care.
I have health care, go fuck off. No thanks to Obamacare.
We need to set the crooked path straight. Anyways.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to surprise and shock you here. That last part she just said, I agree completely with her. When she said we need to set the crooked path straight, she's absolutely correct. And we need to do that by voting out people out of office just like her. By getting rid of these DAs who don't charge criminals. Keep in mind, the Squad, Antifa, and BLM want to release murderers. Think I'm joking? You think people are overblowing it? In Seattle, they just almost released a mass murderer. The governor, which I'll give him credit for this, I'm no Jay Inslee fan, but I'll give him big credit for this. He stepped in and overturned that and said, no, he's staying in prison. These people, man, most ridiculous people I've seen. How are they even in office? In New York, if this is who you vote for and this is who you want in office, don't come to Texas. Stay where you are. You get what you deserve. If you want to let politicians take away your gun rights, release violent criminals onto your streets, kill jobs in your community, stay there. Don't come here. I tell you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, like, share, subscribe, and always, especially in these days and times, keep your powder dry and do what you got to do.